Voice of Indonesia.
Hello VAI, my name is Lisa and we're about to chat to Billy Mambrasar, who's a candidate for a Masters at Oxford University. We're about to hear his story.
I'm studying about project management, but I'm researching more into sustainability aspects of a project.
Yeah.
Capital investment kind of. So it's more into sustainability kind of.
Yeah, and so you're also the CEO of a charity as well. And what sorts of things does the charity do?
So what we do, we try to provide equal access to education, especially focusing on the underprivileged kids in the eastern Indonesia.
Yeah.
And also we put priority on the female to get access for the education.
And the education that you do, is it more like informal, encouraging people to stay within the state system, or?
Yeah. So what we try to do, we are complementing the state system, because what we observe from the current state system is that they don't have sufficient curriculum to stimulate the Indonesian kids to be having critical thinking, entrepreneurial mindset and creativity. So what we do after formal schools, they'll spend times in our informal learning centers for learning all those entrepreneurial stuff and prepare them to be future entrepreneurs.
Yeah, amazing. And with this, do you teach them like English as well? Like, is there? Because I think I saw that in the slide as well. So what do you think the value is of students learning English in Indonesia?
Definitely, that's our backbone. So what we observe is that when they have this English capabilities, they'll access more information because everything is online right now. So when they have their capabilities in English, they can open the information, search for it, learn from all the materials, unlimited materials from the online. But we also encourage them to travel the world. They can see the world, and when they come back, they become a different person. And why we believe that they can be going overseas is that there's a lot of opportunities like scholarship right now, focusing on Papuan kids. And the reason why the scholarship funders cannot find Papuan is because that they cannot speak English. They want they want to recruit people who have basic English capabilities, and since they don't speak English, it's very hard for them to find Papuan and Eastern Indonesians to be in the scholarship program. So the value of the English is definitely very important. That's our main activity.
And do you think that having those kids go out, see the world, and have more opportunities then will then kind of uplift the entire community in Papua?
That's the objective. That's what has been happening. We have a lot of kids who learned in our learning centers and now studying overseas. Some of them are coming back, and they become the stimulant of the development in their villages, in the regions areas, in different sectors. Be it farming, agriculture, education, development, economic, different sectors. So because they learn English in our learning centers, we open up about their mindset. They decided to travel the world. They see examples. They learn a lot of things. They come back. They make change in their communities.
And do you get a lot of support from the government or from any particular organisations? We've
got a lot of support from different, different entities. From the United States of America, Department of States, we got sponsors one time from the DVET Australia. We were funded by them as well. Different companies also fund our activities: Pertamina, Freeport, Garuda, and also support from these individuals, Indonesian who have heart to also be part of the change that we're creating.
Do you have like volunteers come in as well? Like, how is your organisation staffed?
We are built up by a very solid, consistent, committed volunteers. We've got around 152 volunteers in different places to teach hundreds of kids.
Yeah, and where do these volunteers mainly come from? Like from Jakarta, from Timor itself?
From different part of Indonesia, from Papua, from Eastern Indonesia, from Jakarta. So 152 volunteers from different part of Indonesia show that how committed our young Indonesian generation to be also part of the change. So every time we recruit people to be part of the volunteers, it wasn't very hard for us to find ones it's a lot of people who want to be on board to help us.
Amazing. And how did you originally start the organisation? Like, was it just one place that you started working in, or did you get sponsorship first?
All right. So I started working as an engineer in 2009, and I thought at the time that I should have done more than just working as an engineer official. So what I did, I went back home and I opened a small class in my house. I invited like 5 kids around my neighborhood to come, and I tell them that look at me, because I could speak English, because I learned, I read, I could see the world, and I become as very successful as I am right now. So I invited them to be also following my path, and they came and started learning, and the parents saw the difference in themselves. So from 5 kids, at the end of that year, it was more than 50 students started learning in our learning centers, end up hundreds of them in our learning centers at the moment. We opened one learning centers, and there are people who also saw how successful the learning center at the time, so they invited me to also help them to open up learning centers in different places in Indonesia. So that's how the movement grew.
Yeah, incredible. And how did you get your education? Like, what's your story from how you went from being in Papua to where you are now?
Yeah, so my parents are my great motivators. They told me that we're very poor at the time. We didn't even have electricity and enough food daily. So my dad told me that you don't stop studying. Keep striving, because actually having good marks or good grades and performing very well academically can save you and save our family from the poverty line. So I studied really hard. I got scholarship all throughout my life. I studied in the top high school of Papua by scholarship. It's in Jayapura, the capital city. Then I got scholarship to study in also top engineering institution of Indonesia, ITB, also by scholarship. Thanks God, by scholarship. And then I got scholarship to study my masters in Australia, in Canberra, in the Australian National Uni. Also with the scholarship from the Australian government, and now I'm studying in Oxford with scholarship as well. So
Amazing.
This kind of story that I wanted to tell to the poor, underprivileged Indonesian kids, that nothing impossible for you to get the highest education as high education as possible from the top institution in the world if you want to strive hard. That it's not impossible. You can do it.
So would you sort of, because I've spoken to a couple of other people who do similar kind of work, and would you say that there are a lot of opportunities for education in Indonesia, but maybe the mindset for some people, like it's difficult for them to feel inspired to continue with their education?
That's correct. And they wouldn't believe it. They thought they cannot relate. If you get what I mean, like you've got Indonesian who also have scholarship, and they come to talk to different community, but they come from a different background, different place where they grew up. It's very hard for them to convince these kids to believe in what they have done. That's the reason why we do different approaches in our learning center, is that we use local ambassadors. Instead of sending external people to come and inspire, we train the local successful youth from that particular area to be the ambassador for other kids. That makes them believe and could relate and follow the path. And number 2, the main successful key factor of our approach is that we have this kind of long-term mentorship. So we built up relationship with that particular kids for long. It's kind of a life learning process. They started at the elementary school, but we kind of like overseeing them along the way from junior high school, senior high school. When they started, be it in Indonesia, other part of the Indonesia or overseas, we still be in contact with them. Like ask how are you, how are you going, what kind of support that we can support you, and then we try to connect them with other mentors or opportunities for them to be able to survive.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible, because I think that from what I've seen is like one of the main problems with a lot of these sorts of charity projects is that they send like foreigners even, or just people that have like completely different cultural backgrounds in. So you feel like the main reason that you have so much success is because you have people coming in who like speak the language and are really able to connect on a cultural level? Exactly.
And we treat these volunteers who actually be the ambassadors as our beneficiaries as well. So we have two direct beneficiaries, the kids that we are teaching, but also these volunteers that we when we incubate them, when we send them for studying with a scholarship, we actually are preparing them to be the future ambassadors for their community. So you're exactly right about that. Yeah.
And I asked before, just to touch on it again, like, do you have are you well supported by the Indonesian government? Like, do you get support from Indonesian government itself?
Well, we have a very deep connection with the government, Ministry of Education and Culture. In terms of support so far, not so much, and we try to keep our neutrality so that we can say things for the government for their preference. But we have a very strong relationship with them. Like,
amazing.
I'm advising with the ministry, so kind of, I'm part of them as well.
Yeah. So, what would you change about the Indonesian education system if you were allowed to do anything you wanted?
Yeah, probably contextualization. It's very tricky talking about Indonesia, 17,000 islands, more than 300 tribes and ethnicities with different looks, different food, different background, different religion. Very hard for you to have this kind of centralized education system. So what I'll be trying to do is make a contextualized kind of education system in each of the area that is relevant for different sets of background. So for instance, what's happening right now when you have the textbooks coming from central Jakarta sent to Papua talking about biology and the plants that was used as an example there is rice, and what's happening in Papua is the staple of Papuan people are not rice. So when you're talking about rice in that biology books, try to explain the concept to them in which they cannot contextualize and relate with the examples that you said on the books. It's very hard for them to, understand.
Yeah.
Especially textbook and, curriculum, I know it's very hard and tricky how to contextualize in this, kind of a big, complex country. But I do believe there are ways or lessons learned that we can take from different part of the world to be, applied there. That's number one. Number two, I want Indonesian youth to be problem solver. So I want the curriculum to emphasize less on memorizing and winning the exams. I want them to be more the real problem solver. Stuff like things that they can do in the real life and show that they have life skill to solve the problem in the community. The kind of approach that I want to make.
That's amazing. And so you travel quite a lot of the world. Do you think that you will always come back to Indonesia and live in it? Do you currently live in Indonesia or do you live in Papua?
UK, Jakarta, Papua, different
so
places.
So lots of different homes.
A lot of different homes. And the reason why I'm traveling a lot is that number one, learning. Number two is try to tap the opportunities to support our learning centers. So I'm being kind of phase of it so that I can connect our learning centers to, to different opportunities out there. So I'll be doing it for life, traveling and, being an advocate for equal access to education to underprivileged community, not only in Indonesia, but also in different parts of the world, especially for the females as well.
It's absolutely incredible. I think your story is so amazing. Okay, VOI, that was our short conversation with Billy Mambrasar, who's a candidate for Masters at Oxford University. Hopefully that'll inspire you to get more educated.
Voice of Indonesia. VOI.